Welcome to the 2020-2021 Harmony ISD Security Training. All personnel that may participate in any aspect of any assessment during this school year is required to complete this training. Due to safety concerns, we are doing all training virtually this year. You will receive a date from your campus principal on when you should have this training completed. The district and campus coordinator resources are available online to any person who wishes to view them. The DCCR includes the following sections: Texas Assessment Program highlights, calendars, training, paper administrations, online administrations, complete administration process, test administrator manuals, security, and accessibility. It covers all assessment programs, including STAR, STAR Alternate 2, and TELPAS. The link to the DCCR is shared here. The training today will cover the test security portion of the DCCR. This includes an overview, testing irregularities, both serious and procedural, penalties for violating test security and confidentiality, investigating these violations, how to avoid testing irregularities, and required forms. Maintaining the security and confidentiality of the Texas Student Assessment Program is critical for ensuring fair and equal testing opportunities for all students. Given the many uses of student performance data and the need to assure educators, parents, students, and the public that test results are meaningful and valid, it is imperative that all individuals participating in the program preserve the integrity of test content and student data through strict adherence to the instructions and procedures contained in these district and campus coordinator resources and the test administrator manuals. Conduct that violates the security and confidentiality of a test and is considered a serious testing violation includes directly or indirectly assisting students with responses to test questions, tampering with student responses, falsifying holistic ratings or student responses, viewing secure content before, during, or after a test administration unless specifically authorized by the TEA, discussing or disclosing secure content or student responses, scoring student tests either formally or informally, and duplicating, recording, or electronically capturing confidential test content unless specifically authorized by the TEA. Serious testing violations also include responding to secure test questions, fraudulently exempting or preventing a student from participating in the administration of a required state assessment, receiving or providing unallowable assistance during calibration activities, encouraging or assisting an individual to engage in the conduct described in the previous items or in any other serious violation of security and confidentiality, and failing to implement sufficient procedures to prevent student cheating. And finally, failing to report to an appropriate authority that an individual has engaged in or is suspected of engaging in conduct described in the items listed previously or in any other serious violation of security or confidentiality, and failing to implement sufficient procedures to prevent alteration of test documents by anyone other than the student. The penalties for violating test security and confidentiality may include referral to the State Board of Educator certification for potential sanctions, including a restriction, reprimand, suspension, or revocation of a certificate. Specifically, Texas Administrative Code 249.17G indicates that a mandatory minimum sanction of a 1-year suspension for an educator who intentionally manipulates the results or violates the security or confidential integrity of any statewide assessment. Under Texas Education Code 39.0303, the person commits an offense if the person intentionally discloses the contents of any portion of a secure assessment instrument developed or administered under this subchapter, including the answer to any item in the assessment instrument, and the disclosure affects or is likely to affect the individual performance of one or more students on the assessment instrument. An offense under this section is a Class C misdemeanor. Invalidating student results, lowering of a district's accreditation status or accountability rating, a charter school receiving a sanction, a revocation of their charter. A district must notify the TEA immediately of any violation or suspected serious violation. The district is required to gather all relevant information, including statements from all staff involved. The district must submit to the TEA an online incident form, a summary of the incident, and typed, signed, and dated statements from all involved. Students involved in the incident may be interviewed. However, if their statement is recorded, their parent or guardian must give permission prior to getting the statement. Procedural irregularities are less severe, more common, and are usually the results of minor deviation of testing procedures. Procedural irregularities include monitoring errors, accommodation errors, eligibility errors, improper accounting of secure testing materials, and other procedural errors. These require an online incident report and the district's plan of action to correct the incident from happening again. These types of errors usually can be resolved with minimum impact on a student. Monitoring errors include the test administrator doing the following: leaving a room unmonitored during testing, not monitoring students during a break, reinforcing test-taking strategies, not properly preparing a room or device for testing, not using the test administrator manual and reading the SAVE directions, not completing the required seating chart, and not giving the student the correct amount of time in completing the test. A test administrator did not actively monitor students and did not detect when a student went back or went ahead to work on a different test. They did not ensure that students worked independently. They did not prevent a student from using a cell phone to take pictures, post, or send messages. They did not verify that the students recorded their answers and accepted a blank answer document. And they did not confirm that the students submitted their online test. Accommodation errors might include giving a student an unallowable accommodation, giving a student who has no accommodation an accommodation, not giving a student an approved and allowable accommodation, not properly administering or applying an approved and allowable accommodation, and failing to get the TEA approval for a particular accommodation. Eligibility errors include giving a student the wrong test, either wrong grade level, wrong language, or wrong versions, giving a student a test on the wrong day, not giving an eligible student a test, giving a student a test when they don't need it, and failing to account for all eligible testers. Improper accounting of secure materials may include giving a student material that belonged to another student, losing or misplacing secure test materials, including test booklets, not returning secure materials at the end of each test day. Secure materials were left unattended or an online test was left visible. Scorable materials were found after all other materials were returned to the testing contractor. And a student's test results or test performance were improperly shared. Some other examples of procedural errors are personnel who were not properly trained or who had not signed a security oath were allowed to administer tests, monitor a test session, relieve a test administrator during a break, or handle secure materials. Raters for TailPass did not follow proper training or calibration activities. A TailPass writing collection was not submitted in accordance with required assembly criteria. Please take a moment to review the ways to avoid serious testing irregularities. Please review several ways to avoid monitoring errors. Please review a few ways to avoid accommodation errors. Review the list of ways to avoid eligibility errors. Here are some ways to avoid the improper accounting of secure materials. Please review ways to avoid other types of errors. All district and campus personnel who participate in state-mandated testing or handle or have access to secured test materials must be trained and sign an oath of test security and confidentiality. The training you are participating in is the required training for test security and confidentiality. You may be required to attend additional test administrating on your particular campus at a later date. All security oaths are good for the entire school year for all administrations. If you are located on a campus, your campus coordinator will give you your security oath to sign and will keep the oath in a secure location. If you are located at the district level, the DTC will give you your oath. If you have already signed an oath this year, you do not have to sign another unless you have a different testing role, such as an oral test administrator. If you are a paraprofessional, a certified individual will have to be named and sign your oath that they will be responsible for your actions during a test administration. The training section in the DCCR includes required trainings for all programs, supplemental STAR training modules, and a supplemental STAR Alternate 2 training module. The link on the screen will take you to the training section of the DCCR. The supplemental training modules are new this year and are very good. They are not required training, but your campus coordinator will let you know if you need to watch this training. I would encourage all staff to take a few minutes and watch the training. Test administrators who provide oral administration must receive specialized training in providing the oral administration of content-specific terms and symbols. They must sign the oral administration portion of the General Security Oath, and they must review the new oral and signed administration educator guide. Test administrator responsibilities include maintaining test security at all times, distributing appropriate test materials, implementing appropriate test processes and procedures according to the manuals, reporting any suspected test violations, and preparing the test materials to return to the campus coordinator after the test. You will receive your appropriate test administrator manual from your campus coordinator. Please remember that this training does not take the place of reading your manual in its entirety. The manuals have changed, so please do not rely on previous test administrations. Thank you for participating in this required test security and confidentiality training. Please see your campus testing coordinator or principal if you have campus-related test questions. You can contact me at any time for all other test administration questions.